Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 23 playthrough of the Kansas City Royals. We are at the start of the 2030 playoffs, and after a one-year absence, the Royals are back in the playoffs as AL Central champions. Fifth time in 6 seasons that the Royals are in the playoffs. On those previous four playoff appearances, have a 3-3 series record for the Royals. Lost in the first round in 2025, lost in the first round in 2026, won three straight series to win the World Series in 2027, and then lost in the first round in 2028. So definite trend for the Royals where we're either going to lose the first series or win it all. So hopefully that means that we will be able to get by the Baltimore Orioles in our upcoming 3-game series that we will be hosting here in Kansas City. Taking a look at the proposed playoff roster, big decision to make. The game kind of defaulted to Sal Frelick, our starting left fielder, being off of the playoff roster for this 3-game series. You can see that he's day-to-day with knee inflammation for the next week, and that it's going to have a moderate impact on his running. So I kind of get why he might not be there. Junior Marin is also banged up for 3 weeks with a quad strain, which is going to have a minimal impact on his running. Another starting outfielder. And then catcher MJ Melendez, his knee soreness, that's going to have a minimal impact on running for him over the next 5 days. So we have some players banged up. I guess the big question is, would we rather have both Frelick and Marin on the roster, just in case either one of them gets banged up? In which case, what we would probably do is send Jordan Groshans, take him off of the roster, kind of a utility infielder for us. But he did hit just 202 this year in only 84 at-bats. So in a 3-game series, probably not going to get a lot of action. Given that it's a moderate impact on Frelick and he's already fragile in terms of injury proneness, I think I am going to just do what the game defaulted to and keep him out of this series. We may end up regretting that. But if it was a minimal impact, I would keep him around. But given that it's a moderate impact, I think we will have him out for the series, which is not going to be great for our offense. Looking at our pitching staff, I kind of think we've got generally the right players on the roster. It's just a matter we are going to move to a 4-man rotation for the playoffs. No, not a 3-man. If I could click properly, a 4-man rotation. See the staff that Nichols wants to put together. And looks like he wants to go with Spencer Bauer, Caleb Lagerwell, Zach Jacobs, and Gordon Graceffo. So all right-handers for the rotation. We're going to bump up Spencer Bauer's pitch limit to 100 for the playoffs. Keep Zach Jacobs at 100, but now that we've gotten Spencer Bauer healthy through another regular season with his very low 90 pitch count, I'm going to let him go a little more wild here in the playoffs. Tyler Bosma, it looks like, will drop out of the rotation, but that will give us a third left-handed arm for the bullpen. He'll be a lefty out of the pen along with Will Goebel and Mackenzie Gore, so some decent options potentially for Nichols in terms of matchups with at least the 3 lefties coming out of the pen. Without Frelick, we'll take a look at what Nichols wants in terms of his lineup. You can see that despite the injury, Junior Marin's going to be hitting cleanup and batting right, playing in right field and batting cleanup against right-handers. And then he's also still going to be in the lineup playing right field and batting 6th against left-handers. So it will be important to have him around. We've got Groshans as a backup in the infield, Luis Jose and Fabricio Valera as backup outfielders. So we have some insurance if Marin gets banged up. And Angelo Bolden, the young rookie catcher, former number 1 draft pick for us, first-round draft pick for us, is here to back up MJ Melendez if he ends up a little banged up. So Like the way the roster looks, the goal is to win this series quickly in Kansas City and move on to the ALDS. But before we get to the series, one thing I have been thinking about with our young star, Alex Vasquez, is who just won the American League batting title as a rookie. And you can see he also led the league in ribbies, led the league in doubles, led the league in slugging percentage, OPS, and WRC+. So he had an absolutely fantastic rookie year. Hard to imagine that he won't be named Rookie of the Year. And would think that he's going to be receiving some MVP votes too. Still considered the number 4 prospect in baseball. The question is whether we want to try to sign the guy to a long-term contract here before his 24th birthday. Just something that I've all of a sudden started giving a little thought to, especially with the fact that our last super prospect who we signed to a long-term deal when he was very young, Bobby Witt Jr., is now heading into the player option this next off season. So we could be moving on from him. If we look at what he's expected to earn over the next few years, Vasquez still expected to be at the major league minimum next year, but then 4.5, 8, 12, and 15.6 through his arbitration years. I would think he's already got a batting title under his belt now. He's going to be named Rookie of the Year. You would have to assume in the few weeks after the season, and as I said, he's probably going to get some MVP votes too. Do we just try to lock him up now? The bat looks like it's going to be incredible. He's been a scouting discovery that we made, homegrown player, left-handed hitter. Doesn't have really anywhere to play defensively. You can see maybe he's a left fielder when you look at his infield stats. Although he's been listed as a first baseman, he's not there. He's not that good there. I guess you could play him in left or right. Realistically, he's probably a DH, but that's fine. He's looking for $18 million a year over 10 years, but that would allow us to buy out 5 years of his free agency. I don't think we're going to give him an offer quite that big. I think we're going to structure this a little bit differently, maybe make it a little more even in terms of the salaries in the coming years, but I would not mind taking a stab at trying to get him locked up. So before we get into the playoffs, I'm going to see if we can get our young star locked up for maybe less than he's going to be worth a couple years from now if he has another couple monster seasons. Vasquez, as I mentioned, looking for $18.8 million a year over 10 years, but also wants to opt out after 5 years, which doesn't help us at all because these are the cheap years that are under team control, largely through arbitration. So definitely going to take the player opt-out out of the offer that we make back to him. Would consider... so you can see here, we're starting at 11, getting up to 20. So the average is $15.5 million over 10 years. So more than $3 million a year less that he's looking for. We don't have the big player opt out. I think we will kind of structure this a little more similar to what we did with Bobby Witt Jr. and maybe give him that player option in that final year at a bigger number that puts the average annual value up to $16 million over 10 years. So we are still $2.8 million a year less than he was looking for, but we're avoiding the player option and kind of have pretty reasonable numbers. Obviously, he's going to be making a lot more these next few years than he would be at the major league minimum and then going through the arbitration system. But then we would lock him up for at least 4 years after free agent eligibility at a much better rate, and then give him the opportunity to potentially opt out at age 33 for $25 million. I think we're probably a little light at $2.8 million a year lower than he's looking for, but I'm going to give him a chance, see what he thinks. Yeah, he's not looking for. Still looking. Actually, his average has come down to 16.8 million. Now he's only willing to do that for 7 years, but if we take the player opt out of it, maybe we can get something done here if we offer him a little more money. It'll be interesting to see whether we can pull this off or not. His mood is still favorable, but not as much as it was. We've bumped everything up $1 million a year, so we're offering him now $17 million a year over 10 years. He was most recently looking for 7 years, $16.8 million. So we're back to the 10 years, but we now are offering him a little more per year than he was looking for, and getting closer to the contract he had before. But both of the contracts he's proposed have an opt-out after the 5th year, which for us just absolutely defeats the purpose of trying to of paying him more during his arbitration and team control years. We need to guarantee some of those free agent years if we're going to make him an offer here after just a year and 26 days in the majors. So let's see what he thinks. Not going to get it done. He's still looking for 17.8 million for 7 years. So we'll move on from that negotiation for the time being. Certainly can potentially re-engage with him down the line, but any contract that pays him more during his team control years and doesn't guarantee us at least a few of his free agency years is just a deal that's not going to make sense for the Royals to make. So looking at these Baltimore Orioles, who 83-79 record, third in the AL East, but still got that final wild card spot. You can see kind of an interesting matchup here. The Royals were first in the AL in runs against, and we're going to be going up against the best offense in the American League. The Orioles were first in runs scored. And then the weakness is going to be their pitching staff, which was 12th in the American League against our 7th-ranked offense. Hopefully we can score a few runs against them, and hopefully our strong pitching staff will enable us to win this series. Caleb Lagerwell allegedly going to get the start. That doesn't make sense to me. I thought Spencer Bauer had pitched a while back, but I could be. Yeah, it says that Spencer Bauer should be the starter, although he pitched 5 days ago. Oh, Caleb Lagerwell pitched 6+ days ago, so maybe that's why. We're going to have a minimum of 2 games regardless, so I guess if Lagerwell goes in game 1, that is fine. We've got to win twice anyways. So Caleb Lagerwell, 12-10 with a 3.56 ERA, a good solid pitcher on the mound for Kansas City, going up against Victor Grande, who has a tender shoulder. Oh, and actually the playoffs don't begin for us until tomorrow, so Spencer Bauer, I'm guessing, is going to be moving into starting game 1. Yeah, when we look at that now, that makes more sense. So Spencer Bauer on the mound, 12-7. 2.88 ERA, 203 strikeouts over 156 innings for the ace of our team, and Victor Grande 8-7 with a 5.31 ERA. So we're going up against that good Royals offense, or the good Orioles offense, but hopefully our pitching will enable us to win the series. So the playoffs are underway, and game 1, Kansas City, a 10-2 win. So Bobby Witt Jr. with a homer. R.J. Dabovich gets the win. Taking a look at the box score. Spencer Bauer didn't go even 5 innings, but did go 4 1/3. Struck out 9, 2 earned runs, only 1 hit, but he did walk 3. Dabovich on in relief, a hold from Matoyer with 3 innings of hitless baseball, and then Toomas came on to get the final out. You can see we got a home run from Bobby Witt Jr. and a couple ribbies from Devers, who had a weak regular season for us after we picked him up before the trade deadline, but certainly paid dividends in this first game of the playoffs, going 3 for 4 with a couple ribbies and also a 2 ribby game from Josh Young. So a solid start for the Royals here in Game 1 against Baltimore. Moving on to Game 2 tomorrow. And as I mentioned, Caleb Lagerwell, 12 and 10, 3.56 ERA on the mound for the Royals. Jean Duran on for Baltimore. Looks like they picked him up mid-season from the Giants. Was 2 and 3 with a 4.75 ERA for the Giants, and was 2 and 4 with a 4.48 ERA for the Orioles. So it looks like another pitcher that hopefully the Royals offense will be able to put up some runs against. Hopefully we can avoid getting into a decisive Game 3 and just take the first 2 games, and we did. 7-6 victory, much closer than the first game. Bobby Witt Jr. with the AL Wildcard Series MVP award. You can see today, wow, another home run for Bobby Witt Jr., 2 for 5 with that solo homer. A couple ribbies from Marin Devers, Tim Anderson, 4 ribbies from Josh Young for the series with a 2 ribby day in both games. So real good series for these Royals. Yeah, sorry, those are their, is anyone who's paying attention, those are their series totals, not their game totals. I was reading off the wrong line there a little bit. But good offense from the Royals, 12 hits, 7 runs scored. Lagerwell, only 3 2/3 innings, not very sharp. Dabovich was not sharp either in relief. But after that, Goebel and Vanasco did well, and Luke Murphy did enough. Blew the save, but ended up getting the W there in the late innings. 500 average for Bobby Witt Jr. as he earns wild card game MVP. Few years after he won the AL Division Series MVP. So a good start to the playoffs for the Royals. We will be moving on. Let's see if we know who we are going to be playing. White Sox still up against the Yankees. Looking at the playoff tree, we're going to be going up against those Red Sox. So that's right, because they only edged us out by 1 game for the second best record in the American League. So the Sox and the Yankees get to go up against the Mariners, who had the best record in the American League. And we are going to get to go up against the Red Sox, and we won the season series against them. So although they did edge us out for a home field advantage in the playoffs, and they got the first round bye, we did have their number during the regular season, so hopefully we can keep that up here in the upcoming ALDS. And as we get ready for the Red Sox, the question is whether, again, we want to put Sal Frelick onto the roster. He's got that knee inflammation, which does have a moderate impact, but it's only for 1 day. So I think, especially with Marin still being banged up 2 to 3 weeks with that quad strain, I think we probably are going to put Frelick on the roster. That means that Jordan Groshans is going to the bench. I guess the question is, can we really afford to do that? Kind of leaves Josh Young as our only utility infielder, and he's been playing DH a lot for us. But I think we want the bats, and Groshans just is not much of a bat at this point in his career. Guess we could also think about sending down Fabricio Valera, but I like that power coming off the bench. We may regret not having the extra infielder, but I want to get Frelick's bat back into the roster potentially. So we're going to keep the same pitching staff that we had, but we're going to bring Frelick back up to the Major League team for the second round of these playoffs in the ALDS. You can see he's going to go right into the lineup as our left fielder against right-handed pitchers. Actually, we're gonna have him on the team, but we are going to bench him for this 1 game. He's one game away from being healthy. It's got a moderate impact on him. I think we've got enough depth on the team that we can survive not having him out there for a game. So, although he's still listed as the starter here, but we've definitely got him benched. So, hopefully we can get this first game of the series against the Red Sox, and hopefully we won't regret benching and wasting one of our roster spots on a player that we're not going to play. But we're playing the long game here. The goal is to win the World Series, not just this series against Boston. So Zach Jacobs, 29-year-old on the mound for us, 12-9 record with a 4.17 ERA. Doesn't walk a lot of people. You can see excellent control. Led the American League with the fewest walks in 9 innings. And we're going to be going up against our old friend Zach Willeman, who we traded away for center fielder Luis Jose. Willeman was one of the key players we had to give up in that trade a couple off seasons ago. You can see he had a really nice year for the Red Sox, 11-4 with a 3.10 ERA. So the 34-year-old starter, former Royal, going up against his former team. As we've talked about, the Royals first in pitching, 7th in runs scored. Red Sox very balanced and very good. They were 3rd in the AL in runs against and 4th in the AL in runs scored. So we will get this ALDS underway as the Royals try to get another series victory under their belts. And did not get the win in Game 1. The Red Sox beat us 5-2. MJ Melendez with a homer for us. Looks like probably not a great game from Zach Jacobs. Actually, he was respectable. 6 1/3 innings, gave up 3 earned runs, still earned the loss. Tyler Bosma came on, gave up a couple runs in relief, and then Mackenzie Gore closed things out for us. Willeman, 2 runs over 5 innings. Rodriguez and Cobos, another former Kansas City Royal who was part of that trade that brought us Jose, pitched well in relief also. So lost Game 1 of the series against the Red Sox, unfortunately, on the road. Hopefully we'll have Frelick back in Game 2, and hopefully he can help us do a little better in terms of our performance. It would be nice to get one in Boston before we head home to Kansas City. Obviously don't want to head home to Kansas City needing to win 3 in a row. So pretty important game for us. Gordon Graceffo, who we picked up last offseason when we traded away longtime closer Austin Roberts. 6-9 record with a 4.37 ERA. Did strike out 129 and 127 2/3 innings. We'll be going up against Cassius Thomas for the Red Sox, who is 9-6 with a 3.46 ERA. So the Red Sox are at home. It seems like the pitching matchup favors them. Let's see if the Royals can steal a game. And we can't. They crushed us 13-6. We did get a couple dingers from Bobby Witt Jr. Toomas got the loss, so it looks like they just got to our bullpen. Graceffo actually got rocked, but then we came back, and Toomas ended up getting the loss. But Graceffo, rough performance, 6 runs over 2 1/3 innings. Matoyer pitched well. Toomas got hit hard, Bosma got hit hard, and even Goebel gave up a run over 2 innings of work. So a ugly Game 2 of the series for the Royals, and things are not looking good now. Frelick did go 1 for 5 in his first playoff appearance of the year. You can see Bobby Witt Jr. with the 2 dingers now has 4 homers and 6 ribbies in the playoffs so far this year, but going to need to win 3 in a row if the season is going to continue. So we've got an off day tomorrow to travel back home, and hopefully can turn things around in Kansas City. Presumably with the day off, our ace Spencer Bauer will be on the mound. And we had a injury on the off day, or I guess it was just diagnosed. Angelo Vasquez, we brought up several of our young players over this past year. Think he is potentially our center fielder of the future, but Sprained wrist, day-to-day for 3 weeks, minimal impact on hitting, moderate impact on throwing. So that is definitely not an optimal situation. Question is, do we want to keep him on the roster? Him and Marin are both banged up at this point. Actually, I'm not even sure if we can take him off the roster. I think if we take him off the roster in the middle of the series, then we lose him for the next series. But there's no guarantee that we're even going to get to another series. What kind of roster is Nichols going to be playing with these injuries? Yeah, it looks like he's still inclined to start Angelo Vasquez in center field. But we need to win these games here. We're going to stick with what we got. I like Vasquez. Let's move on to tomorrow and see what things look like. Could this be the final day of the season for the Royals? And if it's the final day of the season for the Royals, there's also a chance that it's the final game in Kansas City for both Bobby Witt Jr., who is a player option that he needs to decide whether or not wants to exercise after this year. And it could be the final game for Spencer Bauer, former Cy Young Award winner, our team's ace, who we are unlikely to bring back. Still looking for about $27.5 million over 7 years. So for a 30-year-old fragile starter, that's a tough contract for the Royals to potentially take on. But we will see what Bauer does. 12-7 with a 2.88 ERA this year. Definitely our ace. And he's going to be going up against DJ Hers, who was 9-6 with a 4.12 ERA. Can the Royals steal one here, or does their season end today in Kansas City? And we got the win. Ricky Manasco in relief got the W. Got home runs from Tim Anderson and Ricardo Cabrera. Looking at that box score, Bauer was okay. 2 runs over 4 innings, allowed 7 hits. Dabovich kind of made things interesting. Gave up 3 hits and a walk in an inning and a third, but no earned runs. Matoyer and Murphy both gave up a run in relief, and then Vanasco came on and pitched an inning and 2/3. Looks like we went into extra innings, and it was MJ Melendez with the walk-off run-scoring single, giving us the 5-4 win in the bottom of the 11th. So, hey, we got to win 3 in a row to get to the ALCS, and we've got one of them out of the way. At least the next game is going to be here in Kansas City for us tomorrow. And then, interesting, we're going up against another former Royal tomorrow in Hayden Wisniewski. So the former Royals got to have to beat the former members of our starting rotation if we're going to get to the next round of the playoffs. So Lagerwell, 12-10, a 3.56 ERA. I would say the second best pitcher on our team behind Bauer on the mound for the Royals. Hayden Wisniewski, 2-8 with a 5.11 ERA. Let's see how his career's gone since he left the Royals. We'll just look at his major league totals. But 3-12 with a 4.73 ERA in Oakland. 8-9 with a 4.85 ERA for the Angels. And then 2-8 with a 5.11 ERA for the Red Sox. So the 3 years since he left have not been as successful as those years he had with us in Kansas City. Let's hope that he puts up a performance consistent with the way he's pitched since he left the Royals against us here today in Kansas City. Would be nice to send this back to Boston. And we do send it back to Boston, although Ricardo Cabrera out for 4 to 5 weeks with a fractured wrist. So his season is over. We are going to place him on the playoff IL. That means that we will need to make sure that we bring our buddy Jordan Groshans back onto the playoff roster for the deciding Game 5. Josh Young becomes our second baseman. Oof. We are not as strong defensively as we have been in the past. Can see he's got average-ish range, decent arm, decent error rating, but not great at turning double play. Definitely not optimal, but hey, we won the game, and we're heading into a decisive Game 5. Lagerwell got the W, Wisniewski got the loss. It was a 1-0 game. Wow, save from our closer, Luke Murphy. So it looks like a pitcher's duel. Angelo Vasquez, despite the sprained wrist with his first of hopefully many playoff home runs in his career. Wisniewski was really good for the Red Sox. 8 innings pitched, gave up just that 1 earned run. But a big game for Lagerwell, too. 2 hits over 7 innings. Perfect inning of relief from Vanasco to get the hold. And then a perfect inning of relief from Murphy to get the W. So big game from Caleb Lagerwell with our backs against the wall. Can the Royals turn the tables on the Red Sox and come back from a 2-0 deficit to take the final 3 games of the series? We'll find out in Boston in a couple days. So we are going to finish today and move on to Boston, hopefully. Have an off day for travel tomorrow. And now we've moved ahead to the off day. And we will move ahead to Game 5 of this American League Division Series. And Zach Willeman, the former Kansas City Royal, who we traded away a couple years ago because he was going to be making a lot of money. We had to make some tough decisions. Helped us bring on Luis Jose, but we're going to have to beat him after Boston won the first game that he pitched. Going to see if we can get to Willeman and see if we can get a better performance out of Zach Jacobs here, who took the loss in game number 1. So a decisive Game 5 between the Kansas City Royals and the Boston Red Sox in this ALDS. And the Red Sox crushed us 12-0. So the season is over. Jacobs with an 0-2 record in the ALDS, obviously not optimal. 3 homers from Tristan Casas for the Red Sox. They jumped out to an early lead and held us to 2 hits. Ugly finish to the season for the Kansas City Royals. Only hits were from Vasquez and the youngster Tim Anderson. Jacobs 4 runs in an inning and 2/3. Dabovich was okay in relief, but then McKenzie, Gore, and Toomis both got whacked around pretty hard. Goebel didn't pitch well. And Willeman with a really good game. 2 hits, 2 walks, and 9 strikeouts over 6 2/3. So the season is over. Tristan Casas tied the AL playoff game record for home runs with 3. So Royals did win the wild card series, and after an 0-2 start, we won 2 in Kansas City to push to a deciding Game 5 in the divisional series against the Red Sox. But we did not get did not get things done in Game 5, and our season is over. And it's going to be the Red Sox and the Yankees who upended the best team in the AL, in the DS, in the LCS, and in the National League, it's going to be the Padres and the Giants. So a NL West matchup in the National League and an AL East matchup between the Red Sox and the Yankees to determine who is going to be representing the AL in the World Series here in 2030. And the Yankees on fire after a 2-1 wild card win against the White Sox. They swept the Mariners, who had the best record in the AL, and then they swept the Red Sox, who had the second best record in the AL, and they'll be facing off against the San Diego Padres, who beat the Giants 4-2 in the World Series. So here in 2030, a rematch of the 1998 World Series between the New York Yankees and the San Diego Padres. And unlike 1998, when that historically great Yankees team won the World Series against the Padres are the champions here in 2030 with a 4-1 series victory over the Yankees in the World Series. So San Diego Padres are your champions, and we will now be heading to the off season. Bobby Witt Jr. has voided his player option, so he is going to be testing free agency. So it's going to be an interesting off season for these Royals. Good for Bobby Witt Jr. We had locked him up, bought out a few of his free agent years. It was a contract that worked out well for the Royals. Got a World Series out of it, but he very well may not be back with us. Let's see what he's looking for. Yeah, he's looking for $35 million a year over 7 years, so it makes sense that he would opt out of the $27 million player option that he had. We've got a decision to do on MJ Melendez's $12 million contract option. Let's see what Isaiah Moore thinks of our season goals. Pleased that we made the playoffs. Thought we did pretty well with profitability. What's he complaining about there? Seriously. The team made $25 million. And his goal was us to make $21 million by 2032. I tell you, these owners are a bit irrational sometime. Don't know why he's upset when we did profitable, or we were even more profitable than he hoped we'd be in a few seasons. He wants us to build the farm system, and he says we did well with that, but I thought our farm system was struggling. Oh, I guess we've moved up to second overall? What is going on here? Maxime de la Cruz. It's a scouting discovery from our scout back in July of this year, who's now the #1 prospect in the game. So that's a nice addition. Okay. I was trying to figure out how our scouting or how our minor league system had gotten ranked so well since the last time I checked in. But having the #1 prospect in baseball certainly helps. So he's happy with that. Happy with our performance, happy with on-field and front office management. Wants us to have a winning record next year, get a better second baseman, make some money, and get to the World Series in the next 5 years. $220 million budget, so I think that means that's an increase from where we were. Yes, perfect. We had been steadily growing the budget over the years. Then we took a step back from 210 to 202 this season. But he's going to bump us up to 220. So you can see heading into the off season, we've got a ton of money to spend. $56 million for free agents, $54 million for extensions. Now, obviously, the issue is that our best player, Bobby Witt Jr., just opted out of his contract. And our best pitcher, Spencer Bauer, is a free agent. So we have 2 gigantic holes to fill with those 2 guys, plus some other holes to fill because Tim Anderson, our starting shortstop, is going to be a free agent. Rafael Devers, who we traded for, is going to be a free agent. Several relievers are going to be a free agent. So we've got a lot of holes to fill, but we've got a lot of money to do it. Minor league player retired. Team trainer Tony Lynch is leaving, which is fine. Hitting coach Ramon Castro is leaving also. We did not renew him. That's fine. So we are going to be heading into arbitration shortly, but big decisions to make. Bobby Witt Jr. has already made one of those decisions. We're going to need to decide what to do with MJ Melendez. But we will focus on all of that in our next episode when we do a full recap of the performance of our players from this 2030 season, and then also jump into arbitration after we make a decision on what to do with Mr. Melendez, who came up at the start of this playthrough with Bobby Witt Jr. in 2022. And Melendez is the one who's left at this point. I guess there is some chance that we sign Bobby Witt Jr. either before he hits free agency or when he hits free agency, but it's unlikely that we will have both him and Spencer Bauer back next year, and it's probably more likely than not that we won't have either of them on the team next year. So it's been a good 9-year run here with both Bobby Witt Jr. and MJ Melendez for the Royals, but it's possible that neither of those guys will be on the team when we get to 2031. But we will figure that all out in the coming episodes. Didn't get the job done by getting a World Series win this year, but it was good that we got the team back in the playoffs. Good that we won the AL Central once again, and we'll see what next year looks like in our next episode, or we'll see what the building blocks for next year start looking like in our next episode. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.